Hey Northside family, it's Sarah, and I'm so excited to share with you a word entitled, You've Got It Unpack It. I love going on adventures, I love traveling, and every time that I go, I pack like my nicest jeans or my nicest clothes because I want to look good wherever I go, you know what I mean? I never know who I might see. But the thing that I despise the most is coming home and unpacking my suitcase. So normally what I'll do is I'll leave it in the corner for however long, and it never fails that I'll get to looking for my pair of jeans or my nice clothes, because obviously, and I'll tear apart the whole entire house looking for them. And something will hit me and I'll be like, oh, I need to go check my suitcase. So I'll go to my suitcase and it's like I have a whole new wardrobe because I'm taking out all the clothes that I've left packed in there. That is just like us when we say yes to God. We've been given the gift of salvation, the suitcase of salvation. And a lot of times we leave that suitcase packed up in the corner and we don't unpack all the things that God has given us. We don't unpack the authority. We don't unpack the power, the hope, the wisdom, the strength that God has given us, so that when we walk into situations, we can have that so that we can live, be the men and women that God has created us to be. This morning, if we don't unpack what God has given us, how will we reach the next generation? In Exodus 4, Moses had just been told by God that God wanted him to deliver his people from captivity. Moses then starts off and he says, God, I can't do this. Like, this is insane. Like, how will they know? And God said, Moses, what is in your hand? In other words, God said, Moses, you've got it. You've got everything that you need. You just got to unpack it. So God asked Moses, God said, Moses, what's in your hand? He said, I just have a staff. So then he goes on and God gives him a couple of other things, and then Moses gives him more excuses. He says, God, I'm not eloquent. I can't talk good. God said, Moses, I created you. I will see you through this. Moses says, you know what, God, there's better people that are qualified to do this job. Don't pick me. Long story short, Moses ends up going, but there's two things that I want us to remember if we're going to have a part in reaching this generation for Jesus. Is one, we have to don't make excuses. Just like Moses gave excuse after excuse as to why he couldn't do what God called him to do, it's just like us. We say we're too old, we're too young, we're not relevant in today's culture. Well, you're preaching the gospel, and the gospel is always relevant. So a lot of times we judge our God-sized dreams, our God-sized ideas with human-sized brains. And so when God gives us something and he says, you know what, I want to use that, we say, God, you can't use this. This is just a stick. Like, there's no way. Yeah, it's crazy to think that God could use that, but God will use what you have. We measure God's plan and God's way of moving in our life to something that we can make sense of. And we get frustrated when it doesn't go the way that we think because it's beyond reason. But we serve a God who does the impossible. And when you step out and when you stop making excuses, and our second point, and you just do it, watch what God begins to do through you. We pray for God to give us opportunity. We pray for God to give us things in our life that we can use to make a difference. But when somebody walks up to you at the grocery store, we just kind of write it off because we are looking to bigger and better things, when God is like, I want to use small things in your life, and I want you to have great passion and great purpose. Like when you're at the grocery store. And I told a story, that something that has always stuck with me. A couple of years ago, somebody walked up to me at the grocery store and they had just been pouring out their heart to me, telling me how hopeless they were, telling me how everyone had given up on them. And I said, oh no, I'll be praying for you, and I walked off. And when I got in the car, God said, don't take for granted the small opportunities that I'm giving you. A lot of times we disregard small opportunities that God is giving us every day because we have our eyes set on the bigger and better things. But how will we reach this generation for Jesus? Is being consistent and doing small things with great passion and great purpose. You see, the thing that was crazy to me is when Moses gave what little he had, God made it more than enough. That God used the staff that was in Moses' hand, that he had been tending sheep with in the wilderness for years. The thing that was beaten, the thing that was worn down, the thing that was scuffed up, and God said, I'm going to bring beauty from that. He didn't use the scepter that was in Moses' royal hand. He used what was beaten down and broken and said, I want to use that, just like in your life. He's going to take your shame. He's going to take your brokenness. He's going to take those things in your life that you've pushed aside because you thought that they were just, you've done too many things in that area of your life for God to ever use you. God's going to take that and God's going to make something beautiful from it. We've got to just do it and not make excuses. That staff, the problem was that Moses was estimating what was in his hand by what it had already done. Moses overlooked it because it had not done anything yet. So how many things in our life have we overlooked because it had not produced yet? How many people have we given up on because we had tried and we had tried to talk to them and they didn't seem receptive? God is saying, just do it. Just keep going. Don't make excuses. I want to use you. I think we've realized as a church and as a nation that we have become too comfortable for too long. And God is saying, I want to use you. You have what you need. Just unpack it. So I want to tell you a story. I heard the story a couple of months ago. It's about the SS California. It's known as the ship that watched the Titanic sink. The SS California had been caught in an ice field for the night. And they wanted to stop for the night. And so the operators signaled the Titanic. And they were about 20 miles away, give or take, from the Titanic. And they said, you know what? Be careful, be cautious, because we're in an ice field, just letting you know. The Titanic being known as the big, unsinkable ship, being full of life, the operators signaled back with the literal words, shut up, and ignored it. The SS California, the operator must have been like, I was just doing my job. Like, this is what I was asked to do, and you're going to tell me to shut up and disregard what I've told you? And he said, okay, whatever, and went to bed and gave up. And because he gave up, because the leaders of the SS California gave up and disregarded signals sent out by the Titanic, 1,500 people's lives were lost. We have to stop making excuses as to why we can't step up and do what God has called us to do. Because there are people crying out to us. There's so much division, so much hate, so much need for identity and purpose in our country. And they're crying out to us, and we keep saying, God, use me, God, use me. And God said, what do you have? And we're just like, I have the stick, God, you can't use this. God said, you have it, just unpack it. So I love you guys, and I'm just praying over you that you will begin to receive this word. That when you ask God to use you, that you will begin to open your eyes to small opportunities that He's giving you every single day. That you will remember that you've been given it by God, you just got to unpack it.